Okay, so I think we are recording. Hello,
Yeah,
Stephanie. How are you?
good, very good. Thank you.
Good. So, you guys, I am here chatting today with Stephanie Sullivan. She's actually from Delaware. And we connected, as so many people are doing these days. We connected online on social media, but we realized that we were kind of in the same field, had a lot of the same passions when it comes to nutrition and gut health and wellness. And so we decided to connect today because I really think that it's just important to hear different voices and hear from different people, because people say things differently. They're teaching from a different perspective, and we all have different life experiences. So some of this stuff, if you've been part of my tribe for a while, then some of this stuff is not going to be new to you, but maybe just getting some extra tidbits and just getting some new and different information from Stephanie will help you kick some things into gear and change some habits. So Stephanie, why don't you tell everybody and your people, if you're still, because your people are probably seeing this too, your people probably know what you do, but go ahead and tell everybody anyway what your
Well,
jam
thank you
is.
first. Thank you for doing this with me. Yeah, so what I do is I became a strength trainer first, and I actually am a TRX coach here in Delaware in Rehoboth Beach. And I started with that, but I've always had a passion of yoga, and I did a little bit of yoga. Then I got really into it, and started seeing the difference my body was doing. Um, I'm a marathoner, and so I've always been an athlete, and just seeing the difference when I would mix both the yoga practice and the strength training, it made my marathons so much easier and so much better, and the recovery time amazing. And then I've always had a passion with nutrition. So eating healthy, um, and that was the main key. That was the main key: eating healthy, then getting into the yoga part, and then getting the strengthening in there, um, to have a actually happy life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, we were talking a little bit before this, and I think the cool thing is that, what you said, I think before we started, you said a lot of people want to start in the strength.
Yeah.
And what really the place where we need to start is getting the nutrition in order first.
Yeah.
And I think there's that old saying, about you can't out exercise a bad diet. And I think that that's so true. And so I would love to hear, because I know were saying you're really passionate about gut health, and you were even talking a little
Yeah.
bit about your daughter and some of the things that you've helped her in the nutrition world. So I'd love to just hear, like, what was your journey like finding healthy eating? What are some tips and tricks that you use now that have helped you? And like, what was that? Because we all have a growth curve, right? Like we all
Yep.
started, I mean, I'll speak for myself. I started with like, I'm going to eat Snackwell's cookies. Remember those from the 90s?
Yep.
Like I'm going to eat Snackwell's cookies, and I'm going to do all this low fat stuff because that was the thing back then. And we now know that that's actually not really helpful because it's super high in sugar. So I would love to hear like what your journey was to get to the point where you are today when it comes to your
Yeah.
health and nutrition.
So the nutrition part is totally different. Even though I grew up in the United States, my family's from Chile, from South America, and so our eating habits was totally different. Um, and we had lots of salads, but we combined mostly salads with our protein,
Mm-hmm.
not so much grains. Even though we did have grains here and there, and sometimes we did the which would, if you would read now, like you can't put starch and starch together, and
Mm-hmm.
my mom would mix those things up sometimes, but it was mostly was the salad and a protein. And so I grew up in a different kind of outlook of healthy eating. So I never got into any of the diet or the low the low fat stuff. So for me, it's been totally different. So I had to start kind of understanding the new stuff that's been coming out too, like the bloating, the excess acne, why teenagers were getting their acne, And after learning more about that, that's when I started helping my eldest daughter, helping her sometimes with mood swings but changing her diet from not eating any processed foods to eating vegetables, fruits, and just things that were made by us,
Mm-hmm.
natural. And that just turned so many situations around. And I see it every day in some of my clients and so just even my family members. I have little ones, so I have older kids, I have little kids, and I can just see the difference when um, you introduce these new, these healthy foods to them compared to the kids that they hang out with and that they have that little bit of unhealthy eating habit.
Well, what age did you start doing that with your daughter? Because my daughter, I have an 8-year-old. She is so picky. I can't get her to eat anything. And we have actually, because of that, started like adding in specific supplements like pre and probiotics into her diet. We make sure she takes vitamins every day and all that kind of stuff. But literally the girl eats like mac and cheese and quesadillas all the time. And I mean, I know she eats a ton of fruit. She does. I can get her to eat fruit, but anything green other than avocados that land on her plate, we can't, she doesn't eat. And so we've tried, but I would love to know what age you really started changing that with your daughter.
Now, she always ate healthy, or all my kids have always eaten healthy at home. It's that high school age when she started eating more of that processed food. When she would go to volleyball, camp, or she would do, she would start eating that fast food type of food. The same thing with my son. They just, as soon as they started college, bad habits started happening. And as soon as they come back home, they know that I will definitely change that way of eating. And sorry, I'm getting a phone call. So with that, then that's when it was changing back again. That's when we saw it, because it wasn't until they were eating that processed food that everything was starting to change more and more, more and more.
Mm-hmm.
So I do feel that just making better choices and preparing ahead. I think that's the biggest thing for everybody. That we're all trying to live a fast life. We all have bombarded with our schedule with, activities for the kids, activities for the parents, and it just I have learned especially with my culture, is to step back, and especially with yoga, is step back and take a deep breath and really, really focus on a week ahead. Focus on planning yourself, not living in the future, but planning ahead, just getting an idea. I think that eliminates a lot of the issues, because it's that fast, like, I'm hungry now, I got to pick something out, and that's when we get in trouble.
Yeah.
Because you think, oh, we're only eating that one bad thing and it's okay, we'll do better the next meal. And it's okay, but at the same time, you got to think that stuff gets stuck in our gut. So, and then that's when we suffer. So it's those little bits, because we could do it today, one little mistake, and then next Friday do one more mistake. It just adds up, that building block. So we really, really got to start, planning ahead.
Yeah, it's having things like apples or carrots and cucumbers that are already cut up, where you can dip those in hummus or things. I find that when I have those things already cut up in my house and ready to go, and like sitting where I can see them, like right in the front of the refrigerator, where it's like, instead of going into the fridge and grabbing, we don't have a ton of bad, quote unquote, bad foods here at the house, but instead of grabbing some chips or something like that we might have around, it's like, okay, I've got these other things that are I know I like. So yeah, I definitely agree with having that stuff.
The other thing too, Jamie, that to answer a little bit of your question, I think also what my kids at least, it helped them to eat more of the better foods, for them to get interested. I actually have them help me make the foods.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that helps because it feels like they're doing something with you and that you guys are both setting that example to each other. But at the same time, I tell them, all right, you can cut this up and now you taste how it feel, taste. And I think that helps a lot, especially with little kids and your child that's 8. I think that's so much fun to introduce them to the foods that you're making it, make it fun, make it a game. Because I did that a lot. And I do that still with my, I have a 12-year-old and then I have 8 and 4-year-old. So I do that with them too. Just play with the food, taste it while you're, creating it. And hopefully that, the other rule that I always had in my household is that we all sit down as a family every night. It doesn't matter what we have, but we all sit down as a family. And the rule is that you got to try it once every week. And there'll be like, you got to, if something on the plate, broccoli, for example, and they didn't like broccoli. And all right, but you got to try it because it's that one food for that week that you got to try. And then I would introduce it again the following week. And they'll be like, no, we already tried it last week.
Like different
and
week.
I'm like, nope, it's a different week.
Yep.
And so they got used to it.
Yep. We call it a no thank you bite. You have to take one no thank you bite of everything on your plate. And then if you decide afterwards you don't like it, then you can say no thank you, but you have to take at least one bite and try it. Yep. So she is getting more adventurous. And I think that sitting down as a family is such a huge thing. My daughter also, she loves baking. So I can get her in and we'll be like, let's make, I have a lot of paleo baking recipes that I do with her. So I'll do, awesome. We'll be like, let's make some carrot zucchini muffins or, paleo zucchini bread and some of these things that are, so at least it's a little bit healthier and then, it tastes good. And I can be like, oh, the only thing bad in there is there's like a little bit of maple syrup or maybe a little bit of honey, but it's high protein, all these things. So yeah, I think that's so great. And I know you talked about where you were just really passionate about just the gut and the brain connection and seeing some changes in the mood with your older kids, especially like noticing that when they started eating healthier again, like maybe coming back from college and things like that, there was a big difference. So I think that's just something that, both of us, that's kind of where we connected, was on the gut brain connection and gut health, because I think this is something that it's out there in some of the more holistic realms, or if you're working with like a functional medicine doctor or something like that, like they very much understand that the gut is the second brain and that there's such a connection between our mood and how we feel and our energy levels and all these things when we take care of our gut. But, there's actually like all this research out there about the bacteria in the gut and how those can be impacted by things like stress. Stress and sugar are two big ones that can negatively impact our gut bacteria, but also things like yoga and breathing and exercise and these things that help calm it. Those can actually change your gut bacteria because your nervous system is sending different signals to your belly. And so I just think that stuff is fascinating. So I don't know if you have anything you want to share.
I know. That's one of my passions too. I always tell, especially my students or my clients, I always tell them that your thoughts, your body is literally reacting to your thoughts. So, and if you're feeding it incorrectly, it just heightens up that mood. That negativity and miscommunication between the brain and the gut. And so definitely eating the right fats, the good fats, getting those in. And the only way that the gut can absorb all those good fats is by making sure that the lining of your gut is healthy. But if it's inflamed, there's no way it's going to be able to absorb all those good fats. So it's kind of like eating empty calories, literally. Empty calories, but at the same sense, you're not getting healthier, or you're not losing more weight. So that absorption is very crucial, and the only way you can make sure that the gut lining absorbs all those good nutrients is by making sure that you eat correctly, keeping that inflammation down, pumping in those vitamin C's, the glutamine, the probiotics, the licorice. Licorice is very good for the gut lining. And like eating avocados, almonds, all those good type of fats to be able to absorb and then be able to communicate correctly to the brain, because all those good fats go to the brain, feed the brain.
Absolutely. I always joke that if I like, my love language is avocados because I love avocados so much. But I was actually reading a study recently where they were talking about that, they were looking at people who were stressed when they were eating versus when they were in a lower, like more of the rest and digest state in the nervous system. And that our stress levels, you can eat the exact same meal and it doesn't absorb as well when we're stressed out. And I don't know that they looked at the bacteria of both people in those states, but my hypothesis would be that, when you're in a stress state, knowing that changes your gut bacteria and some of those other things, that can then change how it's all absorbed.
It is, and the emotional stuff too, because then afterwards, if you can get your parasympathetic mode, in your body, and that's what we do for yoga, breathing, making sure that you get the flow of the breath in there. If there's all these obstacles in the way inside your body, how the heck is that, breath going to be able to reach into those areas? So that breathing is so important, keeping that level of calmness in your body so that it can actually repair itself. The human body it's such a miracle. It has so many, it is full of like intelligence and I don't know, this is my passion. So I just feel like we take it for granted and we don't use it to its potential.
Oh my gosh.
If we could just
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I hate this idea that Western medicine has that the body is broken, because I think we can really use the body to heal itself. And if we just know how, and it may take longer. And obviously, like, broken bones, like you can't eat your way out of a broken bone, but there are so many diseases that are caused in the body because we are not feeding and taking care of our body in the way that we need to. And, we know that stress can cause disease and all these different things.
Yeah.
And,
well, Jane, I just think I even say it sometimes as we take care of our cars, our homes, so much more than we take care of our bodies. And the same way that we take care of the engine of our car, that's how we should be doing with our own gut, with our own bodies. So I just feel
like an oil change, right? Like giving yourself an oil change. Like you're not, like you have to have, especially like I think of fats in that way, because they are the things that they help to, I don't know, it's almost like they're lubricating, but like things like olive oil and avocados and these things that naturally have, or like things with like high in omega-3 fatty acids. We know that those are so good for the brain and that they help, the brain has so beneficial to eat fats for the brain and to keep that going. And that's our nervous system, right? So it's all intertwined. And we could probably nerd out about this for like several hours. People are going to be dropping off at this call left and right. They're going to be so bored.
Well, and the other thing too is that, and me as an athlete, like I did my last thing that I did was a 71-mile bike ride from Dover all the way down into Bethany Beach, and it was for MS. And I trained for 6 months, but I made sure that I knew what I was eating and what gave me that energy and what gave me that oomph, that I needed. when I was, when I was riding or practicing. I learned so much. And then with just even doing the nutrition, then I would do yoga, and then I did my training. So I did all of those three for 6 months consecutively. And the day that I did the 71 miles, I was just mentally tired because it was, several hours of riding and riding. And but the next day I went and I taught a strength training class because I felt great. Felt great.
Yeah, you're like, I feel fine. My body's okay. Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
people were like, "What?" But I said, it's because you put those three together, voila. I mean, it's like, it's a no-brainer. So
Totally agree. So, well, where can people find you if they want to connect with you, if they want to chat with you more about strength training, yoga, nutrition, like all of the awesome stuff that you do? Where can they find you?
they can find me at TRX by Steph, on Instagram or on Facebook, at gmail.com as well. So you just put all of those, TRX by Steph, at gmail.com, and that's where you can find me.
Awesome. And I'll make sure that that's in all of the things typed up too, so that people can find you. So thank you so much for chatting with me today. This was so great to connect. It's so fun just to connect. The internet can be a blessing and a curse. And I think in this case, just connecting with awesome, other ladies who are doing really awesome things is just so awesome. So thank you. I appreciate your time chatting today.
You're very welcome. My pleasure. My pleasure.
Awesome. I'll talk to you soon. I'm going to stop the recording.